welcome to the Pathway to Wealth with Andrea, aka Andy. So it's great to see you again, and today we are going to be talking about the different types of definitions that you need to know on this pathway to wealth. So the first thing you need to know is financial institutions. So financial institutions is anybody who holds your money besides you, basically, and rewards you for it. So a financial institution, there's brokerage houses, banks, credit unions. Those are all different kinds of financial institutions. So a bank, everybody pretty much knows what a bank is, I'm guessing. If you don't know what a bank is, wow, we're going to have to do some more work on that. Credit unions, now they're actually a nonprofit. It acts a lot like a bank, except it's nonprofit, and so they're not allowed to earn a bunch of fees on their members. They have to just be there to support their members. Credit unions originally were very like a union. You had to belong to the right category of people in order to be in the credit union. Now you can get in most credit unions. They're usually based on where you live or where you work or who a relative is. So there's a bunch of different kinds of credit unions. So I like them better than banks because they're nonprofit. So they're not trying to make a bunch of money on you. So any money they make, they return back to their patrons. So and then the final one we need to talk about is brokerage houses. Now, brokerage houses is where I keep my retirement account. I don't keep my retirement account in a bank or a credit union. Mine is in a brokerage. So a brokerage, what that is they allow you to buy stocks and bonds and money market accounts and stuff like that. Now, a brokerage house, there are brokerages that have savings and checking accounts, but when I think of brokerage account, I'm just thinking of, the stocks and the bonds and the mutual funds, ETFs and all of that. So I actually have several different brokerage accounts because some of them are better for one thing or another. I have my favorite that has most all of my money, and so I've been using them for lots of years, and that's the one I will be, mostly talking about when I'm using for frame of reference. So, but this is, we're not giving any financial advice here. I will probably talk a little bit about the different types of brokerage, the different names that are out there and what they might be good for, what their, specialties are, why you might want to use this one versus that one. But the choice is all up to you. I am not making that decision for you. I can tell you what's working best for me, but I don't know what's going to work best for you because I'm not you. So anyhow, so a brokerage account, that is just for buying stocks and bonds and mutual funds. So now you're probably asking, what are these different investments? What is a stock, bond, an IRA, all of that. So first, since we just were talking about brokerage accounts and I brought up the stocks and bonds, and so here's my definition of those. I'm trying to make it easy. So bonds are a lower volatility, that's another definition, type of investment. Now, bonds historically have lower returns, but they're historically safer. Now, I keep saying historically because in the finance world, there's no guarantees, and they always say past, let's see, what is it? Past performance, there we go. Past performance does not indicate future returns, something like that. So anyhow, but historically, bonds are a much safer bet, but they also give you a lot lower return. They are basically giving a loan to the company, and the company guarantees that they're going to look out for you. I'm not entirely going to go into what all a bond really is. Mostly for our purposes, I just want you to know that bonds are a little bit safer historically. They have less volatility, but a lot lower returns than the other things like stocks and mutual funds. Well, that can be wrong, because a mutual fund, you can also have a bond mutual fund. So what a mutual fund is, I believe mutual funds were actually started by Bogle, I think is how you say his name, and he's the one that started the my favorite investment firm. Mutual funds, what it is it's a whole bunch of different kinds of stocks, or just a bunch of different stocks, not necessarily different kinds, but a bunch of different stocks that are all held together. So let's say there's this company called Berkshire Hathaway, and if you ever get into the financial world, you'll hear about Berkshire Hathaway a lot, because there's this guy named Warren Buffett, and Warren Buffett is one of the richest men in the world. He was the richest man in the world for a very, very long time, if not still. Maybe Jeff Bezos from Amazon beat him out, or anyhow, not so sure about that. But Warren Buffett was the richest man alive for a long time, and he's still alive, and he has this company called Berkshire Hathaway. Well, they've never split their stocks, which that's a whole nother topic we won't even go into. So his stock in his company is several thousand dollars, several thousand. I haven't ever priced it because I know I can't buy it. So the only way people like you and me could ever buy into a company that their stocks are thousands of dollars is through a mutual fund. So what happens is the brokerage takes all of our money together and buys a little bit, because now it's got your money and my parents' money and your parents' money all together. There's now enough that they can buy a Berkshire Hathaway stock. And now they have enough money that they can also throw in some just Apple stock or Google stock or whatever kind of stock that they want to throw in there, because they're using all of our money together to buy these stocks. And so we own a very small portion of all of these different holdings that they have in the mutual funds. So a holding is just the amount of stocks that they own of each things, or bonds. You can have bonds also in a mutual fund. So so that's a little teeny bit about mutual funds. I hope I explained that to you where you kind of get it a little bit. So it's taking everybody's money, putting it together, and then using it to buy stocks. So because of that, you can buy into mutual funds with any amount of money. So you don't have to, let's say, I don't know these figures, I don't watch my stocks very well, but let's say that they're Apple's going for $200. I think that might be low. But anyhow, let's say Apple's going for $200, but you only have $50. So there's no way for you to buy into Apple. But if you invest in a technology mutual fund, they probably own Apple and Microsoft and Google and anybody else that is involved in technology. And so it allows you to buy more stocks of things that you couldn't really afford on your own. So that's a little bit about mutual funds. So stocks, let's go. I should have started with stocks. So what a stock is you are actually buying a very small portion of the company. So if the company does well, you do well. If the company does bad, you do bad. So you are actually buying a tiny bit of that company. So you could own a little piece of Apple, and anytime anybody buys one of those wonderful Apple products, you're going to get a little boost in your net worth because you own a little bit of the Apple. So, but if anything ever happened bad, you would also, your value would decrease also. So you're literally buying part of the company. And so that's what a stock is. And when you own stocks, they'll actually ask you to vote on like the board of directors and stuff like that. I actually don't do any of that because I don't follow it well enough to be educated to influence it. So I don't feel an uneducated person such as myself should be saying whether or not somebody has a job at Apple or, you know, any of these other major companies out there. So that's a stock, is you are buying a very small portion of a company. So that's kind of cool. So a mutual fund, you're buying a very small portion of a lot of companies. And like I said, bonds are kind of a loan from the company. I don't think you necessarily are an owner. They just owe you money. Anyhow, so that's a little bit about those kind of things. Now there's another critter that is new to the scene. It's called an ETF. What an ETF is it can also act like a mutual fund. So the difference between an ETF and a mutual fund is an ETF acts like a stock as far as the market goes. So where I said in a mutual fund, you can buy in with a couple of dollars, or you can buy in, you know, not buy in, but you can purchase a couple of dollars worth of your mutual fund, or you can put a lot of money in your mutual fund. It doesn't matter. It just calculates how much of the mutual fund you have. Well, an ETF, you have to buy them in, we'll call them chunks, just like a stock. So let's say there's a technology, I already used this example, there's a technology mutual fund. Well, there might also be a technology ETF. Now, the difference is in the mutual fund, you can put $5 in, or you can put $50 in, you can put $500 in, you can put whatever amount you want in, and it'll just adjust proportionately. But if you want to invest in that technology ETF, it has a set price, just like a stock. So where you can buy into the mutual fund of an ETF for any amount of money, you can only buy shares of a ETF. So let's say the technology stock is about $200 a share. So for $200, you can get a share of ETF, of the technology ETF. But if you don't have $200 to invest, you can't buy any. So that's why mutual funds are kind of easier to deal with when you're trying to invest little bits of money. ETFs are good if you want to do some lump sum investing, which we'll talk about that a little bit later. So ETFs are really good. Now, in my brokerage that I use, you can't dollar cost average into an ETF either. So that's one of the downfalls for dollar cost for ETFs for me, is that you can only lump sum into an ETF. So that's a little bit about stocks, bonds, and ETFs. Wake up. Okay, there we go. Now we're going to talk about the different types of retirement accounts. So there are Only a few in the United States. Sorry for those of you who are watching from other countries. I don't know what they're called. I'm only familiar with the ones in the United States. I'm pretty sure most countries do have some sort of retirement account for their citizens, so you'll have to check with your country. So first, the first one I want to talk about is your 401k. Now, 401k is a retirement account that is usually held through your employer. They're the ones that decide what brokerage house to use, and they also decide what types of investments you're allowed to use. It's usually some mutual funds, but sometimes it's a few, just a couple of them. Sometimes you have a whole laundry list of different mutual funds you can invest in. So the beauty and the thing that makes 401ks so wonderful, and I highly, 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 highly recommend that if your company offers a 401k, get in it. Especially if they do matching, which most companies do offer some sort of matching. I have yet to find one that doesn't, but I don't have that much experience, really. Let's be honest. So what you do for your 401k is you just need to inquire about it, and you go to your HR department and you ask them for the retirement benefit package, and they will tell you, they will either email you or give you a packet about all your retirement benefits. Well, in that packet, it will tell you about your 401k options, and it'll tell you who's holding the money, how to log into it, and it probably won't tell you the different types of investments. You're probably going to have to log in for that. Now, I'm just assuming that this day and age, all 401ks allow you to log in on a computer. I can't imagine that you would actually have to do it any other way other than logging in. So you just go to your HR department, ask about the retirement benefits, and then you can find out about your 401k, and that's how you do that. And the thing that makes 401ks so amazing is I mentioned the matching portion. So in most companies, they will reward you for investing in your future. So they will actually give you a portion of the money. So if you put in, let's say you put in $10 and your company has a 50% match, which would be amazing. Most of them aren't that high. I'm just doing it for easy math. So if you put in $10, they're going to put in $5. So every time you put in $10, they put in $5. So instead of you putting in just on your own $10, $10, $10, now you're getting $15, $15, $15. So you just basically gave yourself a 50% raise. Now, you don't get that raise in your pocket right now, but you'll get it when you retire. So it's still a raise. So trust me, if your employer has a 401k, take advantage of it. Regardless of what other investment opportunities you have, you kind of can't go wrong with a 401k because it is free money. Now also, companies also have a limit to how much they will match. So just because you're putting in $10, $10, $10, and they're giving you $5, $5, $5, $5, $5, that's not infinite. So you can't put in $10,000 and they'll put in $5. They usually only match up to a certain percentage of the money. So if you had a 50% match of your, it's usually a percentage of your salary. So if you made $100, okay, and they will match 50% of 10%. So that means, so you earned $100, so they're only going to match 50% of 10%. So that first $10 that we were talking about, which is 10% of 100, they will match that at 50% and give you 5. But if you put in $20, they'll still only give you 5 because they're only matching up to 10%. And if you put that whole $100 in, they're still only going to give you 5 because they're only matching the 10%. So keep that in mind, but you should always, in my personal opinion, you should always invest at least to that minimum. So if they will match up to 10%, put at least 10% in. If they'll match 20%, put 20% in. Most of them aren't that high. Some of them are as low as just a couple of percentage, but I've never seen, like I said, I don't have that much experience, but I would be really surprised if it's much above 50%. That would be amazing. So, and if they do match 50%, it's only probably a couple of percents. So that's the things you're looking for when you talk to your HR department. You're looking for if they offer a 401k, which hopefully they do, and if there's a matching part of the 401k, and what percentage of match they give, and then what percentage of the matching they'll do. I didn't explain that very well. So what percentage of the portion of your paycheck they will put in, and then what portion they will match of your investments. Still don't know if I did a very good job of explaining that. Hopefully you followed it with my example, because apparently I'm not having a good time trying to explain how they work. We talked about doing the 401k and why it's amazing. It's free money. Everybody wants free money. Free money. So do your 401k. That's the long and the short of it. 401ks are good. We like them, especially, well, if they have matching. The other thing we need to talk about is our IRAs, and then the different types of investments you can make into your 401k or your IRA. So an IRA in the United States stands for an individual retirement account. So an individual retirement account is a form of investing that the government has encouraged us to have. They've created this thing that we can now use to plan for our own retirement. So it's different than Social Security, because Social Security is not voluntary, and we have to put money into Social Security, and then they decide what investments to put it in, and then when they decide, when you're old enough, that they'll give you some of that money back. That's how Social Security works in a nutshell. But an individual retirement account is, because Social Security isn't necessarily good enough for people to live on these days, IRAs were invented. So that was a really long explanation of why IRAs were invented. So IRAs, it's just a government condoned and supported, well, supported isn't the right word because that makes it sound like they put money in. They don't. They don't at all. They just allow you to do it and have rules for investing in it. So right this second in the United States, in 2021, an IRA, you're allowed to put $6,000 a year. That's the max out amount, is $6,000 a year. So you can only put $6,000. You can't put $10,000 away in your IRA. You can only put $6,000 away. Now you can do less, but that is the government regulations right now for people under the age of 50. Once you hit 50, you get another 1,000 as of 2021. So the benefits of having an IRA is there's two different kinds. There's the traditional, and then there's the new one, which is the Roth IRA. And I will define both of those because you can also do a traditional and a Roth in your 401k. So in a traditional IRA or 401k, the money goes in untaxed. So if you put $100 in a traditional account, either an IRA or a 401k, the whole $100 goes in. All of it. So that way your whole $100 is in that account for the entire period of your investment. So if you started it when you were 20, it's going to be in there until you're, you have to start withdrawing traditionals at 70 and a half. It's mandatory. I think it's 70 right now. They might have changed it to 72. Yeah, they might have changed it to 72. Look up when you have to start pulling out of your traditional when you get that age. When you start getting 70, you're going to have to look at that because it's going to change before you hit 70 probably. Even if you're 69 right now, it'll probably still change. Because that's how these things work. So also the maximum has changed several times over the years. It doesn't change every year, but it has been changing fairly frequently. It started at like 1,000 in 1974 is when the first IRA was invented. And so it was only 1,000 and now it's up to 6,000. So who knows what it'll be like by the time you retire. So anyhow, back to traditional versus Roth. So in the traditional, so that $100 goes into the account and it grows that whole time. So, but the catch, the government's got to have their share, straight out. They're not going to let you just have that money. No, they got to get their income tax. So what they're going to do is, so this $100 is sitting in there for 50 years, hopefully. Hopefully you're starting super young and you have 50 years. At the end, all of the money that you've earned on that $100 plus the $100. So let's say that $100 grew, not using math at all, just picking numbers out of the air. So let's say that $100 is now worth $100,000 over the course of 50 years. So now, instead of taxing you on the $100, they're going to tax you on the full $100,000. Yeah, that's a lot of money. But you've also had that whole $100 to grow for 50 years. So the other option, which is even newer than a regular IRA, is called a Roth. Now, I personally really like Roths. There's a lot of debate on which one is better because of what I just said. Traditionals isn't taxed, and that whole $100 gets to work for you for 50 years. Well, a Roth is after tax. So the government has already taken their chunk. And again, we're just going to use simple math. So let's say you earned $100 that you're going to put into this account. So that's pre-tax. That's how much you actually earned. Well, after they take out Social Security, Medicare, and your regular income tax, now we're just going to say it's worth 80. So now you only have $80 to work with. Before you had 100, now you only have 80. So you put that into the account, and we'll use the same kind of math that I used for the traditional. So now let's say 50 years has passed, and let's say you got the same proportionate amount of return. This is not real math, this is just for example. So now instead of making 100,000, you've only made 80,000 because you've put in only 80 rather than 100. And all other things being equal, now you're going to have that much less at the end. But they don't take out any taxes. So at the end, so you earned 80,000. When you take it out, you still get your 80,000. Where when you had 100,000 before, now here's why I think Roth is better, because taxes usually go up. It's been my experience that taxes go up. I haven't really ever noticed taxes to go down. And as long as taxes keep going up, that chunk that they're going to take of your $100,000 is probably greater than it was the chunk they took out of your $100. Here it was 20%. Now it's been 50 years. Who knows? Maybe they're taking 50% now as the minimum. Who knows? I don't know. You don't know. No one knows. 50 years from now, no one knows. So worst case scenario, we'll just say not worst case scenario. It could be worse. For our example, it's now you have $100,000, but when you take it out, they're going to tax it. So they got to take their chunk. So at the end, you might only end up with $50,000 because they have a 50% tax now as the minimum. So originally it looked like the traditional was better way to go because at the end you had 100,000 versus the 80,000. But now you add the government and them taking their little piece of the pie. Now you might only have $50,000 over here instead of the 80,000 if you were in a Roth, because they already took their taxes and so they don't get to grab any in the middle. They can try, but they're not allowed. So that's why I personally like Roths better, because I don't trust that taxes will go down. And it is true, if you make a lot of money right now, you might be in a very high tax bracket. And if you're in a very high tax bracket already because you make so much money, well, if you make too much, you can't put into a Roth. That's another catch of a Roth. You can only put into a traditional if you make, I think it's over 100 some odd thousand. I've never worried about it because I don't make that much. I'm not worried about not being able to invest in a Roth. That would be a wonderful concern. Anyhow, so if you're already in a high tax bracket, let's say you make just under the amount that caps you out of making a Roth, they might already be taking 50% of your taxes or something. And when you retire, you might not be making much money. And so that will put you in a lower tax bracket. So if you make a lot of money now, a traditional might be a better option because they might actually take less taxes at the end because you're earning so much less money because you're retired. You're not making any money. So there's the other argument for traditional. So we go back and forth. So what I have done is I have both. That's how I deal with it. I do favor my Roth and I put most of my money in my Roth, but I do have a traditional also, just in case. And all of that also applies to your 401k. Now, another caveat about 401ks that you got to keep in mind. Now, my personal company doesn't match on a Roth at all. So having a Roth IRA, a Roth 401k doesn't give me the benefit that I want in a 401k because they don't match. So what good is giving them my money if they're not going to match? So that's something else to keep in mind is some companies don't match on a Roth. I lost my train of thought and I've got something in my eye. Okay. We're back. So traditional versus Roth 401ks, you got to check with that HR department and see what your benefit plan is, because you don't want to be investing in a Roth if they're not going to match. Unless, now here's the other beauty of a 401k. If you don't trust yourself to invest in an IRA, because an IRA, you got to do it all by your little self. You have to open the account. You have to put the money in. If you don't trust yourself to take the money you have earned and put it into a retirement account, then always invest, even if they don't match through your 401k, because at least then you'll have something. Because they're going to do it for you and take all of that brain work out of there. They take the money before they give you yours. And so that's one way to make sure that you have a savings for when you retire, is just let your company do it. And then you can't spend it because they took it before they gave you yours. It's called pay yourself first. It's one of the very first rules of investing. I can't even believe I haven't even mentioned that one yet. So anyhow, so that is one of the reasons that 401ks are so amazing, is it takes the investment out of your hands and takes care of it before you have a chance to blow all your money on whatever you blow your money on. But, and the other reason, well, one of the reasons I like my IRA more than my 401k is, like I said, the company gets to pick what investments are available to you. They get to pick what brokerage house they use. And there was actually a special done on some of these brokerage houses were charging a lot of fees to maintain a 401k. So you have no control over what the brokerage house is. You have no control over what investments are available to you. The only thing you can control is how much goes into what investment. So you do have a tiny bit of control. You can control how much you put in and where it goes, but only in their options. Now, if you have an IRA, you can choose whatever brokerage house you want. You can choose whatever investments you want. You can do stocks, you can do bonds, you can do mutual funds, you can do ETFs. There's even some other ways you can use the money for all sorts of other things, but that is an entirely different topic, and I don't do that at all. So we're just gonna pretend it doesn't exist. But I'm just letting you know there are other things you can invest your IRA into. But that's another level. That's a different course altogether, and one I won't be teaching because I don't know how to do it. It's called a self-directed IRA. And yeah, we're not going to cover those because I don't have one. Can't tell you anything about it. So there you go. That's what financial institutions are, what retirement accounts there are, 401ks and IRAs, and that's also a little bit about stocks, bonds, mutual funds, and ETFs. Oh, I didn't mention money market accounts. So money market accounts are also things you can invest your money in a financial institution, and a money market account is just kind of a place to hold your money. It's a little like a savings account at a brokerage house. There's some differences, but honestly, I don't know what they are. All I know is it's just kind of a safe place to put your money. It may or may not bear any interest, and it may or may not fluctuate a lot. Well, not a lot. They usually don't fluctuate very much at all, but they might fluctuate a tiny bit. So money market account is another type of investment. And how I use my money market account is first, when you very first fund your account and it comes from your other financial institution, your bank or your credit union, it's going to go into your brokerage, and if you haven't told it where to go, you haven't picked different stocks or ETFs or mutual funds, it's just going to go to a money market account, and it's just going to sit there until you tell it where to go. So that's kind of my experience with money markets. The other thing I use my money market account for is, I told you at my brokerage house, I can't dollar cost average into ETFs or stocks. I can only use dollar cost averaging into mutual funds. So if I want to buy ETFs, I hold that money, or stocks, I hold that money in my money market account. And then I use the money in the money market account in order to buy my stocks or my ETFs. And right now my money market account is making, I think, a tiny bit more than my regular savings or checking account. So I suppose I need to talk a little bit about savings and checking accounts. So at our other institutions that we talked about, the banks and the credit unions, you have savings and checking accounts, and there's some other accounts that we're not going to talk about. The big two are savings and checking accounts. Now, you can also hold your IRA with a bank or a credit union. They will do that for you. So, but a savings account is usually, let's hope it is, a interest-bearing account. Now, an interest-bearing account means that they take your money and they hold it for you. And for the privilege of them having your money to go play with, yes, that's what they do. They take your money and they lend it to other people or companies, or then they buy other investments with it, and then they earn money, and that's how they pay you interest. And right this second, interest on a savings account in a regular bank or credit union is pathetically low. Pathetically low. One of my high yield ones right now is only paying 0.4%. That's 0.004. So yeah, if you're putting $100 in, they pay you, I think it's 4 cents. I think that's the math. So yeah, it's not much. So for every $100 you get 4 cents. Whereas if you invest that in the market, who knows how much you're going to get. You could get a lot or you could get a little. Who Who knows? But it is a consistent thing. If you have a savings account, they will always guarantee you that you're going to make at least whatever percentage rate it is at the time. Now, when I joined my favorite bank that I'm using, it was like 4%. So for every $100, I got 40 cents. So that's pretty cool. Or no, not 40 cents, $4. So there's a big difference between $4 and 4 cents. Yeah. Anyhow, so that's really important when you're looking at a savings account, is how much interest it's paying. Now, a savings account, super safe. That money is not going to go away. The government in the United States has guaranteed through an institution called the FDIC. What the FDIC does is it ensures that even if you, let's say you went with Bank Andy, and Bank Andy all of a sudden ran out of money. Bank Andy can't give you your money back. Oops. The federal government is going to go, naughty, naughty Bank Andy. We're going to give the person the money back anyhow through this insurance company that they have authorized, which no one really knows. It's not actually part of the government. It's a private business, the FDIC, but the government has given it the authority to do this for us, and that's up to $250,000 per person per account. So if you have a joint account, like your husband or your wife, then it's $500,000 per account if you're both on the account, because it's $250,000 per person. As of now, those numbers also can change. So if you put your money in a savings account, it is guaranteed by the FDIC if it's in a bank, and there's a similar entity if it's a credit union. Can't remember the acronym right off the top of my head. So that's the good thing about checking and savings accounts, is they are guaranteed by the government that you will get your money back and you will not lose that money. Whereas if you put it in a brokerage, again, there is something that will protect you. If Brokerage House Andy can't give you your money back, then the government will give you what you're due, but the government will not tell you that, you know, you bought stock in Apple and all of a sudden Apple isn't worth anything. Yeah, you're not getting that money back. You're only getting the money back that Andy should have paid you. That's a whole nother topic. Anyhow, that is probably more than you wanted to know about all of this. Oh, I didn't talk about checking accounts. So checking accounts, everybody should be pretty familiar with, though checks are kind of obsolete these days. We still use the term, and there's still people that write checks. My parents write checks. I get a paycheck. It's not actually in the form of a check anymore. I can actually get my bank will mail a check on my behalf. So a check is a physical piece of paper that says, I will pay you this amount of money, give it to a bank, and they will take it out of my account. In case you don't even know what a check is anymore, because who uses checks anymore? So it used to be the only way you could get money from one person to another person was you actually wrote a check. And now we have ATM machines that you can just go to the ATM machine, take out the cash, give the cash to the person, or we can do it all automatically. So, but a checking account, I digressed. A checking account is an account that you can just take money as much as you want. You can just pull it in and out, pull it in and out. Savings accounts up until last year had a limit of 6. You could only withdraw from your savings account 6 times unless you were physically in person in front of a teller at your bank. You could only pull it out 6 times. So only 6 ATM withdrawals or phone or automatic transfers or anything like that. If you weren't physically standing in front of a teller, you could only do it 6 times. Last year, because of the coronavirus, they relaxed that a little bit. So right now, I don't know if there are any limits on your savings account. It depended on they left it up to the bank whether they wanted to relax those or not. So you need to check with your bank to see if the 6 limit is still in effect at your bank. Anyhow, but a checking account, you can pull in and out. You could put money in all day. Well, savings account, you could put money in all the time. They don't care how much money you put in. They only care about you taking it out. But checking accounts, it's a revolving account, and you can take it out every day if you want. You can write a check. You can go to an ATM every single day, 10 times a day. They don't care. That's what a checking account is for. But in order to give you this privilege, they usually give you a lot less, if any, interest. So that's why a savings account pays you more interest, because it's not as much of a hassle for the financial institution. So there you go. There's a lot about all of it. So thank you for joining me, and I hope you enjoyed, and I look forward to helping you on your pathway to wealth. And sign up for the course, hit subscribe, join my Facebook group, Explore and Make Money with Andy. I think that's what it's called, something like that. You can go to andreareagan.com to sign up for my course, or to get some more tips on investing and saving your money and other ways to earn more money, because that's even better than investing, is if you can actually get more money to invest. So there's all different ways to save and invest and earn more money. So, and there's another one I have, it's called Ways to Make Money on the Side.com. So there's also some information there if you're interested. And thank you. Hit the thumbs up, subscribe, write comments. I would love to know if you have more questions. Please let me know. I would be very happy to answer your questions. As you can see, I could talk about this topic all day. Anyhow, signing off.